Beautiful women are some of the loneliest type of people to ever exist because everyone wants to be like them, but no one likes them. I was rewatching this old YouTuber that I first really liked, but I guess I grew out of her. More specifically, I was watching her explain some of the childhood trauma she has endured. And as I was watching her, I realized that the majority of the comments were discrediting her because, mind you, she's a very beautiful woman. But a lot of people were discrediting all of the challenges and obstacles she overcome and was just crediting her success simply because of her beauty and was saying that, well, you're at this status because of how you look. So none of the traumas you've been through, it literally doesn't mean anything. Now, mind you, this woman is extremely gorgeous, so I understand why people would say this, but it's still sad to see the level of resentment people give her just because they deem her as more privileged than them. And I wanted to talk about this today because when I was younger, I felt this same type of thing, not because of beauty, but because I grew up in a two-parent household. And compared to my friends, I've had a lot of friends that grew up in broken homes. You know, one of my friends, her mother is literally a drug addict. And as she got older, as the daughter got older, the mother just started to become more attached to drugs and no longer could take the role as mother for her. I've had a lot of friends in foster care. I've had a lot of friends just with extremely adverse childhoods. I grew up in a, typical middle income household with two parents. My life to me is very typical, it's very average. When I grew up, I got the very basic necessities and not really much more, and I was grateful and content with that. But compared to my friends, they saw my reality as impossible. Compared to their reality, my reality was like extraordinary. And so I felt this burden of living in like a two-parent household as I had friends that were from broken homes, because although for the most part my family and friends did respect me, they were nice to me, I did feel this like underlying resentment that they had built up for me. Although like I was cordial enough with them, like I could still hang out with them, there was times where I would be with them and I just felt like they were trying to set me up, or they were doing things to invoke some type of harm to me. They genuinely liked seeing me get in trouble. There was like something within them. There's a word starting with G, like they gloated. It's a word, I forgot the word. But like when I got in trouble, or if there was like a potentiality for me to like, something wrong to happen in my life, it's something within them. They really wanted me to get in trouble. So there was a time when I was a child, I just stopped hanging out with them completely because I realized that they really don't have my best interest. And this is because of the resentment they built up for me all these years. I'm privileged enough to experience this, but also it was at the same time very lonely being amongst people that didn't consider me human. Like they saw my life as this grandiose experience. And because of that, I was exempted to being mistreated, to being disrespected, to being treated as not human because people saw me as more privileged. And I think beautiful women experience the same type of feeling, this feeling of loneliness, because people subject them to this amount of cruelty only because people see them as more privileged. Now, I do understand pretty privilege. I understand how that works. I understand that, yes, it is true. The more attractive you are, the more people, well, as we assume, people are more nicer to you when you're attractive. People treat you better. They're more courteous. But also, there's like this flip side, right? Because when you're very privileged in the eyes of people, they expect other people to treat you nicely because they see the privilege that you have. And because they expect people to treat you nicely, because they assume you're naturally just a fortunate being, because you have something that they don't have, subconsciously and consciously, they start to subject you to more cruelty. Sometimes they don't do this purposefully. Sometimes it just happens because in their mind they assume that, well, you already are fortunate, so why do I have to treat you with respect? Life is more fair to you than it is to me, so I don't really have to grant you kindness. Actually, I'm going to subject you to more cruelty and just be blatantly rude to you because I want you to experience the same trouble that I had to experience in my life. It's very easy to fall into this mindset when you deem someone as more privileged than you because, well, if someone is more privileged than you, that means they have more advantages, which means that their life it's just more easier. It's natural to feel envy in these scenarios. But I realized that jealousy, resentment, although it's a valid human experience because these emotions are here to teach us, right? When you feel resentment to other people, it's literally a double-edged sword. When I was younger, there were definitely times where I felt, slight jealousy and resentment towards people. One example, I was in, this was high school actually, and there was this girl and she got straight A's and she was valedictorian. And I was, well, I wouldn't say envious, but I had this, a little resentment in me because I was like, wow, she's a straight A student. This is really cool. I wish I was in her place. But I realized that the more I felt resentment to this girl, and the more I felt this way, the more I subconsciously limited myself and my abilities to receive the same A's as her, to reach the same level of success that she reached. There was a semester where I pretty much got straight A's for the most part, but I realized that anytime I got straight A's or succeeded in something that I normally didn't succeed as much in, I felt this anxiety within me because in the back of my mind, something was telling me that if I succeed and I get all these A's, I'm going to stand out above like all the other students in my class, which means that if I stand out, they would isolate me. And if they isolate me, that wouldn't make me feel good. So I shouldn't strive to get all A's. I should get mostly A's, but B's and C's so I could fit in. Now, I didn't realize this then, but the only reason why I thought this way isn't because if I actually were to achieve straight A's, everyone would isolate me. Maybe some people, because some people are like that. But the only reason why I thought this is because when other people got straight A's, when other people succeeded, subconsciously, well, not subconsciously, consciously, I would mentally pedestalize them and isolate them from myself mentally because I saw them as better than me. I saw them as above myself. And because I saw them as that, I would subconsciously treat them a little bit differently, which is why I thought people would do the same thing to me if I got straight A's. That was my karma. Anytime you resent someone or you are jealous of someone, you reap what you sow. And when people think of karma, they usually think of it in this Western lens where it's like, okay, if you think jealous thoughts about someone, that means someone else will think jealous thoughts about you. And that, may be true, but that isn't necessarily what karma is. Karma literally just means cause and effect. It's as simple as me eating. Like the karma of that is me getting full. Everything you do literally has a consequence. That literally is what karma is implying. When you envy people that you deem as more privileged, it's going to be very hard for you to reach that same level of status or perceived privilege that you believe they have. Because when you are jealous of someone that's more privileged, subconsciously, you are telling yourself that these people are not on my level and I will never be able to reach their status. And because of that, this is why you mentally pedestalize, people that you think are more privileged, because it's basically a way to cope. If you see someone as successful, it's hard for some people to watch them and say, oh, I don't have to resent them because if I work just as hard as them, I can reach their success. So in order to cope, they pedestalize them and say, well, these people are just larger than life. And that's why I can't be like them. They're just by default better than me. And that's why I can't be like them. Instead of just seeing them as a normal human that put in the work in order to reach their status. And this is what births resentment and jealousy. Because when we see these people, instead of being inspired by them and seeing them as a future goalpost, we see them as something that we can never achieve, something that's unattainable. And we treat beautiful women the same way. Everything is a reflection of you. The reason why there's some people that's so envious towards beautiful women is because they are reflecting something that they deem as something that they will never achieve, which fundamentally is power and success. The reason why people want to be more attractive, obviously, because being more attractive, it does grant you more leverage. Now, I'm not going to say this as like a absolute fact, but for the most part, it does grant you more leverage and more power. If we take it into a deeper level, the reason why a lot of women want to be more beautiful is because being beautiful, it literally represents power and control. How the masses, how we perceive like beauty. If you are beautiful, you can captivate other people's attention in a way that, you know, average looking people can't. Or when it comes to getting dates, you are always able to get first picks when it comes to dates. So you have more control over people, you have more power. Now with beauty, it tends to be a touchy subject because with beauty, like if I was talking about intelligence, people wouldn't really care that much because intelligence, you can control your intelligence by maybe reading more, you know, or going to school, you know, you could level up your intelligence. But beauty is a little bit more different because obviously you're born with your looks. You can't really change that unless you're investing in some type of cosmetic procedure, which most people, the average person, isn't really going to do. With beauty, it's a little bit more tricky because it gets a little bit more personal. There's people that have lived their lives subjected to hate because they are considered like unattractive. So it might seem ridiculous if a random girl on the internet is telling you that beautiful people are the loneliest. But I think they're lonely for that same reason. Because people pedestalize them. Because this society chooses to pedestalize beauty as the main avenue to get power and control, even though there's many ways someone can get power and control. Intelligence, money. There's some women that would say that they prefer being beautiful and being idolized and also isolated than being conventionally unattractive and likable. I honestly think people only say that because we have pedestalized beauty so much that being beautiful seems like the goalpost. It seems like once you are beautiful, all your problems will be solved. But I don't think this is true because most women want to be beautiful in order to be liked. They want beauty for social power. But it's kind of a double-edged sword because for women that's extremely beautiful, they're going to have a lot of women that want to be like them. But most women aren't going to like them. Being liked is completely different than being idolized. Most people don't like their idols. They don't like their idols. They don't even see their idols as humans. They see their idols as an image, you know, an image to worship. You can't like someone that you put on this like god tier level the same way you like a friend that shares more commonalities, a friend that you deem as your equal. Beautiful women are the loneliest because they are so loved that it becomes justified to hate them. But that's it for the video. If you like this video, follow me on all my other socials here. I will see you next week. Bye.